Okay, one of the reasons why I'm documenting everything that I'm doing here isn't just because it might benefit other people out there, which is certainly one of the reasons. That's why I post it to YouTube. But I'm also doing it for myself, so I'll know where things go. And when I put it together, since I'm not that familiar with this setup. So, you know, want to film all the connectors, where all the stays went, and in case anybody was wondering, I always put the nuts and bolts back into the holes where they went. But, all right, so I have this one right here. Goes to the turbo. This one right here goes to the turbo for the VGT as well. And I've already disconnected these, so they're coming apart easy, obviously. This one here goes way down there on the turbo. So this whole wiring harness has to do with the EGR and the turbo. This goes to the turbo as well. This way back here. So all those wires are disconnected. So now all I gotta do is just finish taking out this last bolt right here. And then we should be able to, oh, and this one right here, we should be able to lay this back. You kind of want to do it nice and gently. And I will put that bolt back in that hole for that wiring harness. So what that's going to do is that's just going to give us easier access to get to all these things we need to take apart. I just want to get them out of the way so there's no complications when we go ahead and pull the head. Alright, so that's it for the wiring harness on this side. We'll get right on over to the wiring harness on the other side. A little side note on taking these connectors apart. Let's see if I can do that here. You'll notice these little red clips in here. So the idea is to depress right here to be able to pull out the plug, depress this area right here. But in order to do that, you got a little lock mechanism in right here. So what you got to do, you could either do it with your fingers, but I don't have much luck with my fingers. I'm trying to get in there and see. So what you do is you just push it over. Well, I got to put the camera down, I think. Oh, I broke it. Sometimes you could do it over here. Okay, now you see it's pulled over, right? So then you could just depress this part here and you should be able to pull that clip out. I'm kind of doing this in a awkward position, but you can see that slips right off once you move that red piece right there. So, alright, we're going to continue on with disconnecting the wiring harness here on for the other side. That was the passenger side, the video I showed you earlier. We're going to go around the front side, which mostly has to do with the air conditioning, and then we'll get on over to this side. Alright, so we got the front harness apart, and in order to do that, first we got this wire right here. And we got this one right here behind the thermostat. I pulled the thermostat off to make it a little easier to get to that plug. Not the thermostat, but the upper radiator hose. We're gonna have to get to that anyway. This one here is the high pressure sensor for the air conditioning. We got that one undone. This one here, this went to the low coolant sensor on the recovery tank on the radiator we pulled out yesterday. This one here is for the AC compressor. So the wiring harness is in like two parts, and so there's a couple bolts hold this bracket on. I had to take the upper radiator hose radiator tube off to go ahead and get this out. We'll go ahead and slide this on over that way just to keep it out of the way for now, and then we'll get to removing the rest of these sensors and getting this wiring harness moved over as well. All right, and then next we're going to get started on the wiring harness on the driver's side of the truck. All right, so this little portion of the harness we already talked about, remember? So this one goes right here. This one goes right behind the thermostat housing, the outlet tube. This one here goes to the crank or cam sensor. That is part of this other harness over here, which we went ahead and disconnected the air line to the fan clutch. So this one was kind of a bear to get out. This is the crank sensor right here. It's kind of a tough area. And then you got all your stays right here. This plug here was kind of a blank plug on my unit. We got this plug goes right here. And then we could start to kind of weave this harness out from behind the crankcase breather. And again, you kind of want to try and be careful because these wires are going to be a little bit brittle and you don't want to have to be replacing a wiring harness if you don't have to. So then when we get over here, we got our, I think it's a high pressure sensor or something for the fuel rail. We unplugged that one. We've got our map sensor right here. This is one of the things that Roz talks about changing, which I did. And then we're just going to kind of lay this harness over to the side. Now this one here is going to have to do with the fuel injectors and the Jake brake. I'm not going to fool with that just yet until I get inside there. And then the rest of this harness, I just unbolt this bracket right here, and we can go ahead and lay that back on out of the way. I don't really see anything else that's in the way. So, all right, I'll get on that.